Okay, the second thing that we need to take a look at today are what are called sector areas. And this is where we look at this piece of a circle rather than just looking at some length around the outside. We're trying to find how much is that piece. Now you'll remember that before we were comparing the arc length to the circumference. This time what we're going to look at is really the area. Oh, let me get a different pen here. The area of the sector in relation to the area of the circle, right? Those will make a ratio that is similar to the n, or the arc measure, and how that is related to 360. And so this is going to be our equation that we're going to use here. But again, looking at the ratio, right? What part of that whole circle is the sector in relation to what part of the entire 360 around the circle is that measure. Okay, so what we can do here is we need to first start by finding the area of the circle. And you will remember that when we talked about area of the circle, it was pi r squared. Make sure you're using the area formula and not our circumference formula. And so in this situation, it's going to be pi 10 squared, which is the same as 100 pi. Okay, so if we were to set up our equation, now just like before, we could also rearrange this and remember that the area of the sector is going to be the area of the circle times n, or that arc measure, divided by 360. So if I go ahead and plug in my information, I know the area of my circle is 100 pi. I know that the n here is 78 degrees. And I'm putting that divided by 360. Now remember something really important with that pi. Do not put it into a calculator and multiply that pi out. We want an exact answer. And once we use pi in a calculator, it's no longer exact because we have to cut the decimals off at some point. So our answers most of the time will be a number times pi. So we want to deal with everything else in there. Leave that pi alone. And when we get here, you might work to simplify the fraction, or you can go to your calculator and type in 7,800 divided by 360. It's going to give me kind of a fraction, a decimal, so we want to keep it really exact. If you're using your calculator to do this and it gives you a decimal, you're going to want to find what the fraction is. And so I'm going to rewrite this as 65 over 3. Again, you may have done that in a calculator, or you might work to just simplify that fraction. And we have a pi on there. So here is our answer for the area of the sector. Make sure that you have these equations written down in your notes. Okay, even though we're setting up a proportion, it'll be important for you to have those notes down. Let's look at a couple more examples. I want to do one more with you, and then I'm going to have you kind of try one on your own. Now remember, we're looking at the area of the sector in relation to the area of the circle in comparison to the arc measure in relation to 360. And so I'm going to start off by finding my area of the circle, which I know is pi r squared, or in this case, 9 pi, right? I know that my r is 3. So I'm going to find the area of my sector by plugging some numbers in. So the area of my circle is 9 pi. I'm going to multiply that by n. Our n here is 165. Divided by 360. Put the numbers together, but make sure you leave that pi exactly where it is. So 9 times 165 is 1485. We want to get that number simplified either to a simplified fraction or to a whole number. I don't want it as decimals. I do want a fraction still in there. And so I can simplify this or plug it into my calculator and find that this simplifies to 33/8. Don't forget about your pi, right? So this number is describing the area that this entire kind of section takes up. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you, with those examples in front of you, tell me that you got to this problem. Send me a message right now in the chat and tell me you got to the third sector problem. But then I want you to go ahead and pause this video so that you can try this problem on your own. I really want you to try it first. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, hopefully you paused. I'm going to set up what we're going to plug in here, right? Remember that our area of our sector is the area of the circle times my n, or my arc measure, divided by 360. And so I'm going to start by finding the area of my circle, which I know is always pi r squared. In this case is 100 pi. I also know that my n, my arc measure, is going to be 59 degrees. We're going to divide that all by 360. So I'm going to simplify. I'll get 5,900 over 360. Plug that into a calculator and make sure you're not putting that pi in there yet. We want to leave pi just as it is. And we need to have a fraction answer. So you can either simplify this fraction, divide common things out, or your calculator might have a fraction kind of mode where it will give you your answer as a fraction. But we should get down to 295 over 18. Don't forget about that pi. Okay, so that is the measure of this piece of our circle. It kind of looks like a piece of pie.